joining us today in today's event. My name is Charlene Migwe, and I take this opportunity to welcome you all. We're excited to have this opportunity to listen to open contracting from a user's perspective. I think a number of times we've spoken about the technical side of it, what is OCDS, but today the focus more will be on the use cases and trying to engage the different partners who are rolling out open contracting in the country. So the structure would be, there'll be 3 roundtable discussions, each focused on a different theme and highlighting different voices. We have 1 county government perspective, 2, we have our friends PPRA, we're lucky to have them in the room to speak to procuring entity publishing. We all know COVID-19 is something relevant with us here today, so they'll talk more about that. And we'll also talk about the role of CSOs, private sector, in terms of open contracting, and we'll have a 15 to 20 minutes blocks for discussions after each roundtable. Once again, my name is Charlene Migwe from Development Gateway. Today I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm also wearing the OGP hat, where we're the open contracting cluster lead with our partners PPRA. And we shall be your host and the moderator for this webinar. And I think today with me, we have my colleagues Winnie, Florence, and Sembe, who will also be with us, providing support throughout the whole webinar. So just as I've introduced myself, please introduce yourself in the chat box, write your name and your organization. To start us off, our first session will be on our county governments. And we are privileged to have the key implementers of open contracting in the 2 counties. We have Alex Mutuku from Makueni County. We have Robert Chelagat from Makueni County. And we also, Robert Chelagat from Elgeyo Marakwet County. And we're really excited to have them speak about their experiences and what they've learned through open contracting. We'll start with Alex Mutuku, and I'll just encourage you to unmute yourself. Of course, congratulations, and we understand your continuous efforts in publishing open contracting in your county for the past 3 years. But thinking about having rolled out open contracting for all that time, maybe you could speak to what value to the county you've seen that open contracting has provided. Over to you, Alex.
So first and foremost, we have quite an experience in open contracting. And number 1, we have what I can say is the blanket value we have seen in open contracting is what we call the transparency and accountability as a government. So through open contracting, I can specifically say that we have been able to have better value for money. And this has been seen through the level of competition, the openness in publishing and reporting our contracts and the procurement process. So we have seen, as a result of open contracting, people are getting more careful in what they are doing. And as such, as a county, we adopted a policy whereby our procurements are done mainly through open tender.
Wait, I think we lost Alex. Okay, as Alex is still connecting, we can go ahead also to talk to our other partners, Elgeyo Marakwet County, who we have joined today, Mr. Robert Chelagat, who also took a key lead in the technical deployment of the system. And yeah, so I think our question to you would be, now that you've just rolled out less than a month ago, and you're at the beginning of the journey, what was the motivation for Elgeyo Marakwet to adopt open contracting? So what was the situation before, and what do you hope to achieve through open contracting?
Yeah, so thank you, Charlene. I don't know whether CS is with us.
I'm in Chelagat. Thank you very much. I've just joined in.
So you want to say something, Bana CS, as a part of some introduction to this presentation?
Thank you, Charlene. I want to introduce myself. I'm Paul Chemutut, County Secretary of Elgeyo Marakwet. We are privileged today to have this meeting as we know that we are the second county to adopt this open contracting, and we are excited to join the Makueni team as county governments who are pioneering in open contracting. We are also excited because our governor, His Excellency Alex Tolkos, has been with us all through. We have started the journey, and we visited Makueni some time back, where we learned a lot of issues on open contracting and other things which we partner. Obviously, Makueni is our model county. We are pioneers of the OGP, Open Government Partnership, and we do share a lot of information on issues of agriculture, where we are lead mango farmers in the two counties, and other partnership that we normally team up with the county. So we are happy, Charlene, that we joined this team. On behalf of our governor, I want to say that he's with us, and we are joyful that we are together in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, CS. And now I can take you through the factor of motivation, why we joined in, and our expectations. So I just want to say from the onset that Elgeyo Marakwet is one county that enacted an act called EDA, that is Equitable Distribution of Resources, where from the beginning of the sharing of the resources, the county shares equitably the resources in every ward. Elgeyo Marakwet, we've got 4 sub-counties, and we have 20 wards. The resources are shared. For example, our annual budget for currently every ward gets about 40 million. And in that, remember, we also engage the community before the sharing, where they come with their annual development plans. And in the process, the community are interested to know what they have shared. For example, these resources, they go down to appropriate their share also equitably among state projects across sectors, education, water, agriculture, health, and all the other departments, depending on the priorities that they have. Now, with this kind of appropriation and the sharing of the resources, the community have been more keen to follow up their share to ensure that they utilize them appropriately. Now, when the Open Government Partnership was introduced to Elgeyo Marakwet, where we are the champions of that, we were among the first ones to enroll on the Open Government Partnership, because to us, it was the best way to go, because it lessens our burden in terms of explanation on how and why resources are being used at any given particular moment. Now, this Open Government Partnership, of course, was at a higher level that demanded more data, more information, more capacity building. And also we have what we call the CSOs, the CSOs, where they also champion to oversee some of the activities that the county does on behalf of the public. So these community groups, social groups, have been concerned. We've been partnering with them because, as it is introduced, that Elgeyo Marakwet is one county that embraced open governance even before in terms of the sharing and utilization of resources. So we've been calling the public, but of course you cannot be so detailed at the beginning and at the top level. So when Development Gateway came in, it was an enhancement to what we've been struggling with to make the community more informed and more so avail more data to the community. So we've just enrolled with the development gateway, because we saw it that it was an enhancement to relieve the burden of proof in terms of sharing and utilization of resources. The public in Elgeyo Marakwet are more interested to ensure that the resources that have been bestowed upon them are utilized, and at the end of the day, there is what we call value for money. So in terms of demonstrating this value for money, we will not be at the burden to prove that the funds have been utilized. So the community, through this open contracting system, are able to know, and the questions that we have been asked as to, for example, how some contracts have been distributed, how was it advertised, who won the tender, how was it done. The community will be part of this because they will be monitoring, and they will not be asking because they will be part and parcel of the implementation process. So they are involved, and therefore they will be in a position not to be asking questions, but they will also be part of those proving to us that work has been done from the ground. Because every project that is being done in the project in the community, there is what we call a community committee who oversee on behalf of the community. If a water project, they will be monitoring from the time of advertisement, the time of evaluation they will be following, the time of award they will be following, until the time of handing over a project to the community, to the contractor, they will be part of the handing over. During implementation, they will be part of those monitoring the implementation process with our evaluation and management team. At the same time, they will also be monitoring to know that the contractor has been paid the amount that was budgeted and the amount that was actually committed for a particular project. At the same time, they will also be able to ensure that the work done, because they will be part of it, that work is done to the specifications given, because we also provide them with what we call working tools like the bill of quantities. So if it is 20 pipes, they will have seen that the 20 pipes and the quality is what is laid on the ground, because they will have been trained on the same. As we discussed with the open contracting team, the development gateway, the next burden that we have is also to empower the community to raise awareness on how they can be partnering with us insofar as monitoring and evaluation and availability of data is concerned. That is the challenge that we have as we continue uploading more data into the system, because as I said, we have just started. We are in the process of uploading data into the system. We have just launched it, and we have tested that the system is working well. Now we are now planning on how to roll out. So we have the challenge of resources, but nevertheless, we are determined that we are going to reach there. At the same time, what is encouraging us also is that since we want to, the data has been linked with the reports that we make with the PPRA, it will make our work more easier, because at the end, at the time when we want to report, it is just a matter of extracting the data. We don't have the burden to start again looking for how many youth won the project, how many special groups were awarded the tender. So the data will automatically be available. So at least it is a burden for now at the start, but we are seeing in the long run, our work will be more lessened. So I just want to say that, and this also will increase public participation. It will motivate the community to participate more and not to be suspicious on the resources that has been bestowed in the county. So at least we see the future is bright in terms of transparency and accountability, because the county government will not be at a burden to prove and to demonstrate that actually the resources have been utilized adequately and precisely. And at the same time, we will also be in a position to avail reports as and when required. Also in terms of even in transitioning to other new governments, data will be available and it will not be start over again. At least the system one will be able to follow, and it is simple And there will be no question of saying, oh, how was this done? Even during the time of handing over, say, for example, how many projects were done, at least the transition is so good and so smooth. Yeah, so at least we think this is actually the direction to go, and we would want to encourage other counties to adopt the same, not only here in Kenya, but also in other, I don't know how other countries do, but we are saying this is the best way to go in terms of transparency and accountability and accounting for resources. Remember, we have a challenge of where resources, people are saying they are not transparent, contracts are being given to favored groups, favored people, but at least for us as a Marakwet, we are seeing this pattern has been lessened. Otherwise, for now, Charlene, I think I've been elaborate and clear enough, unless there will be any other questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chalagat, for that very comprehensive overview. I think before we got into the questions, maybe we can see if Alex is back.
So sorry for the disruption. I guess it's a challenge. And, I was talking about generally transparency and accountability. And they said that so far we have published contracts worth 2.3 billion, just available on our website, the portal, and therefore this has been a tool whereby you can honestly say that whatever we are doing is visible to the people, to the citizen. And, it has also helped us in terms of answering, especially when we went to the Senate, and they were asking about certain projects, and we were able to tell them, you see, we have already published. We're not hiding anything from the public. So that is one area, and we have seen better value for money. As I said before, we mostly adopted a policy of open tendering as opposed to restricted tendering, and therefore we have been able to save a lot of money, especially like for last financial year in the Department of Transport, we were able to save 30 million Kenya shillings. This year, we are also quantifying. Actually, in the Department of Water, this year we saved Kenya shillings 200 million because it is one of the departments with highest budgets of $1 billion. So through open tender, we are being able to save around Kenya shillings 200 million. That has been sent back for appropriation through a supplementary budget. So another benefit public, I can say, is that there is fair competition because the actors in the procurement sector, they know that whatever you are doing is being published, it is in the portal, and they're subject to query by anybody. Therefore, we have seen that the participants in contracting process, those are suppliers, the small firms, they are now able to have a fair ground in which they can participate and compete with others. And number 3, we have also seen an improvement in the quality of works that are being done. We are able to see the types of goods that are being supplied. The quality, we can say that definitely whatever is being supplied to us, whatever the works, because of the increased awareness of the public, we can for sure say that there will be sustainability in what we are doing in terms of projects. Then, of course, the OC portal, it has a corruption it has a corruption dashboard, and we usually get frequent alerts through our emails whenever there is a suspected fraud, or maybe where, for example, maybe two bidders are, a bidder is repeatedly winning the same contract or something of the sort. Therefore, whenever we get those alerts through the portal, we're able to sit down and analyze and then maybe see where is the problem. So through that, I guess we are still being able to improve our internal controls, the procurement processes. Then, of course, the portal shares a provision for feedback, and frequently we have seen people, because now of the USSD, people are able to query projects in their areas, and this is an area whereby it also helps us to improve what we are doing. We're also able to explain projects according to the demands of the citizen. So I would generally say that OC has really yielded so much benefit, such that I would encourage, and I'm very happy that Elgeyo Marakwet has started the process. I'm sure that within some time, you'll be able to reap these benefits. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you so much to Alex and Chalagat. I think just to wrap up the session and then we can go into questions. I can see a number of questions in the chat. And I'll encourage everyone to just put their questions in the chat also. I think there may be some county governments that are thinking of implementing open contracting, or some that are currently doing it but want to scale it up. Maybe if you had one piece of advice just for 1 minute, what would you tell them, or what advice would you give other counties interested in rolling out open contracting, just in 1 minute?
Yeah, what as it is presented, what I would advise other counties is that as far as transparency is concerned and accountability of the public resources, the best way to go is the open contracting.
Okay, thank you. Alex, the last words, and then we'll open up for questions.
Okay, shortly, I would say that one of the most difficult things is for government to accept to be open, to lay itself bare to the citizen, and allow the citizen to question what they are doing. I think that is one of the challenges. But my encouragement to all other counties is that please start, ensure that there is political will from the highest executive, then the political class, and I'm sure the benefits of open contracting, they also far away even to protect the participant and the stakeholders in the procurement, in budgeting and everything. So I would really like to encourage all other counties to see into it that they can also adopt this system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. So I think I'll just open it up for any questions that anyone has. If you're comfortable with speaking up, if you could put up your hand and I will look for you, and then we can have those questions, and we'll also have Winnie read out some of the questions in the chat.
Okay, we have Isabel from Integrity Action, who is asking Elgeyo, how is the data linked? What platform or tool is used?
Yeah, currently we have a web link with the Safaricom, and we are looking for a cheaper one that will be sustainable in the long run, because Safaricom in the long run we found them to be a bit expensive, and we were still linking with Makueni because they're using Amazon. So at least for now, that is where we are.
Thank you so much, Chalagat, for that. We have Albert from IBP South Africa ask, it would be interesting to hear from these counties about why they think other counties are not doing the same. So far, we have Elgeyo and Makueni County. So why do you think other counties are not doing the same in as far as open contracting is concerned?
Yeah, well, I think as I said, for Elgeyo Marakwet, it also depends on, this is actually a leadership process, where also the leaders, in as far as my counterpart Alex said, is that we would want to motivate other counties to relax and open up to the public, so that the public are always not suspicious. Let us, it is the issue of what would happen, what kind of information do we give the public? Because always we've taken that the government to be separate from the public, but we would want to understand that the government is the public and the public is the government. So either way, we just need to want to understand, and also for our leaders, like for example, our governor, His Excellency Alex told us, and I want to believe also for Makueni, that they accepted to open up to the public. And as I said, Elgeyo Marakwet is one county that signed an act called Equitable Distribution of Resources, which I don't think any other county has ever done so, because I think they are always cautious to what extent can this go, because they will always want to have themselves the control of the resources. But with us, we have opened up, which of course others may see it as a weakness. But as far as I and the Makueni are concerned, I think we have relaxed so much to the extent that the public is actually almost, together we are managing the resources. Yeah.
Okay, can I add a little bit?
Yes, Alex.
Yes, I think she's asking why other counties have not joined maybe open contracting. And, maybe before we talk about the willingness to open up to the public, we could also look at the issue of sensitization. There are those counties that may not be aware of the open contracting because it has not been introduced to them. Therefore, maybe encourage a process whereby these counties may be sensitized, especially through the Council of Governors. So maybe that could be one factor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Sorry, just a point of clarification from Isabel. In as far as the platform that is used, Chalagat, I think you responded to this. Her point of clarification is, can you please describe the portal where the data is uploaded?
I think, Charlene, you are in a position to clarify this better.
Okay, so I think just to clarify from a technical perspective, what Chalagat has been describing is a portal that they rolled out a few weeks ago, and I think Steph has just posted it in the chat. And this was something that was co-developed with the county, where they're able to upload all the data from procurement planning to the implementation monitoring stage, so procurement plans, tenders, contracts, etc. The county is, however, in the process of updating that data. So you'll see around six contracts there, as they just launched it the other day. So I think it's a portal that is public, anyone can access it, and the county has a back end where they update the data over time. So we have procurement officers who update the data, and we have chief officers who validate the data. I hope that's clear, Isabel.
Okay, we have another question from Jessica. Have the counties disseminated information about these platforms to their wards and village administrators? Do these officers and the public have a way of interfacing and posting feedback on the open contracting platforms?
I think for us, as far as the system that we have laid down is concerned, yeah, there's a way the community keep feedback. When they are satisfied, they also give. When they are not satisfied, they also raise their concerns. And our administrators were also trained during the training process, and they are so far aware. And what I only said, what was remaining is to let this roll back now to the community themselves, which I'm saying we have not trained them, but at least as far as the system is concerned, there is a way forward and backward. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Okay, great. I think those are the only questions we had from the team. And just to add on to Jessica's question, maybe I'll ask Alex from Makueni to talk about the SMS platform that they're currently using. Alex? And the feedback? I think we may have lost Alex. No, I think we've lost him. So I think just to fill in that question. So right now what Makueni County has, they have a SMS system where all communities from the wards can subscribe to get alerts on particular contracts from their wards. So they can get alerts on M&E reports, NPMC reports, so project management committee reports that are developed by communities, so that they can know the progress of the reports. There's another question from Isabel as the last question, and I think there's a hand up. Who is monitoring the process? Sorry, I thought that was a community. Isabel, just to confirm, if I understand your question clearly, we in Elgeyo, and maybe I can hand it over to also Chalagat after this to describe that. Elgeyo and Makueni both have project management committees that monitor the implementation of reports. Chalagat, would you like to speak more about that?
Yeah, as I said, that we already have a structure in place where we have a monitoring and evaluation team. We have a reporting and monitoring and evaluation tool already developed. At the same time, the project committees that have been appointed will form automatically part of the monitoring and evaluation team. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think Jessica had another question. Maybe Jessica, I'd ask you to unmute yourself if you're comfortable with that to ask your question.
Yeah, I actually wanted to follow up. So some of the things that I think the Elgeyo representative I just shared is what I wanted to find out and clarify. The project management committees empowered or at least trained on this platform, on how to use the platform? And is it possible for us to, someone to showcase what is being done, like some of the feedback? Can we see the back end or something, or at least a sample of what the feedback on the platform from the public looks like? Like now on the Elgeyo Marakwet, can we see a sample of some of the feedback on a project, for example, so that we see whether it's going deep enough?
Yeah, for Elgeyo Marakwet, as I said, as far as the open partnership was concerned, at least our communities have been trained on how to monitor the progress of projects and to report. And of course, as I said, we already have the structures in place. The challenge that we already have, which we currently have, as I said, we have just launched the open contracting part recently, a few weeks ago, is that we've not actually trained them so much on how to upload and share the data. That is the challenge that we have. But at least for the representatives here, the officials, like the CSO representatives and the water administrators, already they have been trained on how to share the data, how the data is being uploaded and how they can share. But what is remaining now is how to train the community themselves on how to share this data. Otherwise, already the structure is there, which we can share, and we can show how, we can showcase how this is working. I want to believe, Makueni, this is what is up and running. Great.
And just to add on to that, Jessica, so I think because Elgeyo just launched it 2 months ago, as Chalagata said, they're currently looking for partners to support, of course, with training. The PMC has already started working on training of trainers approach. That's already been done. But of course, there's always an opportunity to partner with the CSOs and other organizations to work on empowering the project management committees.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene and the team. From the way I understood Jessica's question, I think she was asking more of the project governance feedback from the public. Is are projects being done to the quality required? Is that are the timelines being met and all that, which are basically what Chelagat said are the monitoring aspect or the end of what is expected of a project. And more or less on this portal, we are looking more of the governance in the process of awarding the public work. I mean the public projects. What their accountability, what their complaints in the are their contractors getting more works or more works than others getting zero, and many other procurement related questions. So when Jessica asked about the back end of the views of the public, I tended to assume it is more of what is the effect of the procurement portal on the quality of projects and the satisfaction or the evaluation of the projects when they are eventually done. And Charlene, you've done well to say, on the procurement bit, I think we've started the education on the various groups, including the project management committees, which, because as a county, we, on average in a financial year, we have around 300 projects, and we have 10 members of each project management committee. Then we are talking about 300 or 3,000 or so members of the public or members of the project management committees appointed by the public to be trained on the various aspects of project management, including the procurement, where they will have a lot of interest now on how the contractor being awarded came to be, and what their openness, what was the data, what were their competitors, and many other aspects of it. So it is a work in progress, and we are not only limiting the training to the project management committees, we also broadening it to include the citizens, because at times citizens, again, they have issues with the project management committees. So we want to broaden the group that will question the data or the quality of works that they have eventually done to be much above the members of the project management committees. So it is work in progress, and we are learning from Makueni and others who are ahead of us, so that we can be able to not only be transparent in the procurement process itself, but also to make sure that the gains in the opening up of the procurement ecosystem transits to the quality of projects and timely implementation of projects, and no corruption incidences on the part of the contractors, on the staff, and even the project management committees. So I hope, Jessica, I've tried my best. I know you've been in this field for long, so we're also open to enriching, and that is why we really coming out to share our experiences, so that if there are any gaps, then we can be enriched. Thank you.
Jessica, I hope that's clear.
I also had to say, because I've seen a question from Jessica also asking whether this information is also being displayed in the portal.
Yes.
As I said earlier, that under the open government partnership, is that we, as Elgeyo Marakwet, had also a hotline where when the community is not happy, they just even call the hotline and the message is recorded and it will be transferred to whoever is supposed to answer, and it will be monitored to the end to see that who answered the query from the community. At the same time, we have a register where the community can also come and register their complaints. But you see now, before this open contracting came in, is that the data was limited, because we could not, the community could not verify, neither could we also verify. But now with the open contracting system, at least there will be more data that can be used for checks and balances and as a reporting mechanism.
Thank you all. Thank you for the questions. And just to highlight, if you go to the link that Stephanie has shared on the chat, you'll be able to see at the bottom of every document published, there's a section for feedback. And once you put in that feedback would be seen by the public, and even the responses from the county would also be seen on the public portal for the link that was shared. Chalagat, there's a request for you to share the hotline details for Elgeyo, and also Alex, also for you to share the hotline details for Makueni as the SMS number, so that the whole of the team can have it in the chat. So if there are no other questions, I think we can move on. Thank you for such an interactive session. There's one more question. Okay. Which was on the Alex has a question.
Sorry, it was Alex Ogutu, and I can just read out the question. How institutionalized are your open contracting structures and systems to withstand challenges associated with transition, especially now that the 2022 electoral cycle is likely to usher new regimes?
As part of our development of the portal, and through the partnership of our HIVOS, we were able to, the support of HIVOS, we were able to come up with a policy, open contracting policy, and the document that is ready, and we have actually booked to forward to the Makueni County Assembly, so that it becomes up, so that it is legislated, such that beyond 2022 or after the change of regime or elections, this open contracting system is anchored somewhere in law, whereby actors, stakeholders are able to come forward and say, if anyone wants to maybe to deviate or to divert from the open contracting system, I think it will not be easy, because we already have a policy in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So meaning there is a current policy in place. Is that policy public for people to also learn from? Is that possible to share with the team?
Yeah, the policy, once it is approved in the county assembly,
yes,
we will have an controlled exercise whereby we will now sensitize, distribute copies to the people, and we usually have a robust public participation system to ensure that in those forums, each person has a copy of the policy, and maybe it will help us to sustain this policy portal.
Thank you for that. So I think that marks the end of our session for the counties. Thank you all for all the questions that you have And I think we'll just go to the next session, which is more focused on COVID pandemic, which is something that we're all alive to. For this session, we'll have Brian Kitonga, who has played a very key role in rolling out the new and revamped PPRA system, that's attendance.go.ke from the PPRA side. And we also have Harriet Washira from Transparency International. And they've recently had a report on supply analysis of COVID-19 contracts awarded by the county and national governments in Kenya, which she will speak to. I think so. I'll just start with Brian Kitonga. One, we all know PPRA is mandated to ensure the publication of procurement data by all procuring entities. From your opinion, are procuring entities publishing this data, including COVID data, and what are some of the steps needed to ensure that they do?
I was given the question which was asking if procuring entities are publishing this data, including COVID data, and what steps are needed to ensure they do. And on that, I did a small slideshow of about 5 slides, which with your permission I can share. And to start us off, I'm going to give you a few summary statistics of what we have so far on the portal, and as a grand total in terms of how many procuring entities and suppliers and tenders and contracts that we have. So you can see at the moment we have 457 procuring entities that are registered, which is quite a small bit compared to all the PEs that are government. We should be talking about 1,500 to 2,000 if you exclude schools. And I'm honored to see that we have Mr. Robert Chalagat from Elgeyo Marakwet, who may be very vital to us because I'm happy to know that they have a portal that they are using, but it's on the flip side, they are not registered on the portal. Neither the county assembly or the county executive are on the portal. So I'd like to request Mr. Chelagat to speak to the relevant people so that they can have an account on the portal, which we can have that as a separate discussion outside this forum. Then we have 15,326 suppliers that are registered in the portal. Most of these are suppliers that are already been awarded contracts. But you need to speak to the relevant officials in Elgeyo Marakwet County so that they can ask PPRA to register them on the portal. And I was saying that we can have that discussion separately outside this forum. I'll share my email on the chat so that we can have that engagement after this session. I want to believe that's okay with you. So I had gotten to the point where I was saying that we have 15,326 suppliers, and we have 52,235 tender notices that have been posted, and we have 15,172 contracts. So this is a big contract because when you look at the tender notices and the contracts, there is a huge margin of around 37,000 tender notices that have not gone through the entire tendering process, which should go all the way to award or maybe termination. And we cannot explain by saying that 37,000 have been terminated. So I want to believe that most of this is because of the capacity building issue. Most PEs may not be fully aware of how to fully do the process of adding a contract. So that's something that as PPRA we are working on. And on the total contract amount, so far we have a total of contracts worth 308,421,974,613 shillings. So it's still a very small margin considering every year the government budget is in the tune of about 2 trillion, and this coming year will be going to 3 trillion. The next slide is a summary of contracts related to COVID-19 that have been uploaded. And most of these contracts are uploaded by KEMSA. I don't think most county governments have been able to upload what they have been buying. So most of the data you are going to see here is uploaded by KEMSA. And we have 96 contracts that have been done through procurement. Direct procurement was 4,820,000. Is it 4 million? It is 4 billion. 821,528 and 333. And we have for open tender, we are 44 contracts, was 222,345,856. RFQ, there are 16 of them, was 19 million. Restricted tender, 19 of them, was 91 million. And the grand total of all these contracts that we have on the portal related to COVID is 175. And in total, there was 5,154,821,623. On the last slide, we have steps that we need to ensure that PEs are publishing data. And the first step, which is the most critical, is the issue of sensitization. It has always been my belief that if PEs are properly sensitized, we are going to have more data on the portal. And so far, we have not done so well in terms of sensitization, because even Elgeyo Marakwet can bear me witness, we are yet to land at their place to train them. So I can't blame them entirely for not having any data on the portal. Secondly, we need to do continuous assessment and monitor PEs that are not publishing data and find out what challenges may be stopping them, which will help us find out ways to assist them to be able to publish data. But once PPRA is done doing this assessment and manages to fix all the challenges, then we'll go further and have some punitive measures on those that are not publishing even after they have been assisted. And some of the punitive measures that Treasury has been suggesting would be to include budget cuts for those who are not reporting on how they are doing their spending. So that's the last slide, and I believe I've answered the job that all the questions that have been given. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I think I'll just encourage everyone to put the questions in the chat as we are discussing. Just to follow up on what Brian has said, we have Harriet Washira from Transparency International. Harriet, I think for you, we'd just like to know more from the report that you had, TI had done last month on the supply analysis of COVID-19 contracts awarded by both county and national governments in Kenya. Maybe you could speak to more of what your key findings are from the report and any recommendations that you would like to share.
With regards to, the data that is out there with regards to COVID procurement. I don't know if you can hear me. I can see my internet is unstable. So maybe allow me to switch off my camera. Right. So, as the pandemic happened and there was a lot of demands from our CSOs, oversight agencies with regards to how COVID monies were being spent. We spent a lot of time making demands of government to make public the contracts that had been awarded to different companies for supply of health products and technologies to manage the COVID pandemic. And of course, we really got interested to see who are these people that got these contracts, and we were really particularly interested in the suppliers. So we started out on a journey to look for what data was available and what information we could then, or what analysis we could then do with that data. So as you can see, as Brian has shown, our first point of looking for this data was PPIP, and as you can hear him saying, it's only KEMSA that has published on PPIP. And I should mention that this KEMSA has started publishing that data sometime this year on PPIP. But based on the way the outcry from the public, and even the president issuing a directive that KEMSA to publish all their data by 30th September, they did. They published a list of contracts that had been awarded, and it was published in a PDF format. And anybody working in open contracting will automatically have issues with that mode of publication. So they published on their website a PDF document that had a list of contracts for COVID-19 data, and this is what we used. So of course, and luckily enough, it was not a scanned document. So we were able to convert this into a format, mostly Excel, where we were able to do the analysis. So from that data, and that is where we deconstructed some of the information that I'll quickly share. I've shared a link on chat for the report. So you can follow along with some of the findings that I will quickly run through. So we noted that the list, what KEMSA shared, despite being asked to share COVID-19 data, they shared contracts that are awarded between September 2019 and September 2020. And of course, Corona had not occurred in Kenya, had not reached in Kenya to a level where we were even thinking about procuring or management of COVID before 2020. And I think we even started dealing with COVID in March of 2020. So then all the contracts that were issued before then were related to ARVs and other drugs that they had purchased, and other products, health products that they had purchased before that. So we really worked to see that we were focusing on the contracts that are awarded between March 2020 and September 2020. And we noted that there were 262 contracts that were awarded between this time that were worth 9 billion, and 6 billion of this amount was spent between April and June. So again, telling a picture of when intensified government efforts to manage the pandemic, as you can see, between April and June. That is where a lot of money was spent. And then, of course, we with regards to still that data, we had to triangulate additional information from the OAG report, and I'll talk about that briefly. But from that list that we got, we were able to get, the description of the items that were procured, the date that they were procured, when the contract was expiring, but there was a bit of a challenge with that data, the way it was presented, the value of the contracts, the reason for the award, the supplier name, the directors of the company, though the list also talks of beneficial owners of the companies, but we all know that the regime right now, we are not able to publicly access data on beneficial owners, so that was missing, but we did get data on the directors of the companies. And then what else? So then the other thing that we were able to get from that list was how the contracts were awarded. So we were able to tell that 44% of the contracts awarded between April and June were awarded as a result of emergency direct procurement, and they were worth 6 billion. So 6 out of the 9 billion that was spent during this time was a result of emergency direct procurement, and then 32% was spent on responsive bidders, meaning there was a call, there was a process, and this was worth about 800 million. And then the total number of suppliers that are awarded between March and September, there were 174 companies that shared the 262 contracts. 131 of those were awarded to a single company. Rather, 131 companies were awarded a single contract. One of the companies, made the mission for essential drug supplies, was awarded 10 contracts, followed by Megascope, that was awarded 9 contracts. I should quickly say something about the MEDS, the Mission for Essential Drugs, and this is something that speaks to OC or the OC standard. Is the way it's captured in the list. It had like 4 different names, and we had to make a determination that we are talking about the same company. though there were, even the directors at some point were different, but we could extrapolate that possibly during the period there was change directorship and so on and so forth. So just a quick note on that myth. And then the beneficiaries of valued contracts, there was a Chinese company that was awarded a single contract worth 653 million, and this was the largest awarded contract during this time. There was the 10 contracts for mission for essential drugs were valued at 476 million. That was the second highest. There was Angelica Medical Supplies that was awarded 421, that got contracts worth 421 million, and these were about contracts. So basically, we were really, it was an interesting thing to work with this data. And as you go through the report, you'll see some of the things we're able to do. We determined that 70% of the 9 billion contracts was awarded to Kenya companies. This is between March and September 2020. Yeah, and then from the Auditor General report, which we were able to get a bit more information to complete that story. We were able to get information on, say, the unit costs. The list that KEMSA shared contain data on unit cost, so we do not know how much, for example, the beds or we don't know how much they supplied the any items that they supplied. But we could get this information circulating in the media, saying 1 month was cost X amount of money, and the media had gotten this information which is able to highlight some of the issues that the auditor raised, how the contracts were awarded. So that completed that circle, but the thing about the auditor is they highlight a problem, a query, so a process. So any information we can only determine because of that contracts that had issues.
Sorry, Harriet, we can't hear you clearly. I think you're breaking up a bit. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I have one small request. Sorry to cut you short. Brian says he has to jump out to another urgent meeting. Could we just have him quickly answer 2 questions and then you can continue? Apologies for this. He has to jump out to another call. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I think there are a few questions, interesting questions that have come from the team particularly to PPRA's role. One, of course, is from Isabel: have punitive measures already been enforced on those who are not publishing, or is this a suggested measure so far? Brian?
Okay, thank you, Charlene, and thank you, Harriet, for allowing me to answer questions before your session is over. To answer the question of punitive measures, there is no punitive measure that we have taken so far. All these are measures that are being suggested and being reviewed on which is the best approach to take. Yeah.
Okay, and a follow-up questions on that. Charlene from IBP South Africa wanted to double check if you meant that budget cuts are one of the punitive measures for entities not publishing the procurement data.
Yes, so this is in connection to my previous answer. Budget cuts are one of the punitive measures that have been suggested, but they have not been agreed on, because you do realize that sometimes it may not be the best approach, because if you do huge budget cuts, at the end of the day, it's the public that are going to suffer. So these are not things that we can jump on right away, but we are discussing on how to go about it.
Great. Okay. Lastly, is there interoperability between PPIP platform and the Makueni and Elgeyo Makueni OC portals, what is being done to make this a reality? Brian, would you like to brief the team on the past discussions that we've had on this?
Yes, so as Charlene is saying, we have discussed this at length previously, and I want to believe that it's actually an advantage when all these systems have interoperability, because, for example, if Elgeyo Marakwet or Makueni have their data already in their portal, it will be quite tedious for them to come to PPIP and repeat the same process again. So as soon as we are done upgrading the current portal, that is the next step we are going to take on how we can integrate them so that someone does not need to log into the two systems to do the same job twice. We will find out ways we can use the APIs in a way that someone can import the data directly from the other portal and vice versa. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And I think just to also give credit to PPRA in that they're already in the new portal that's coming up, they are implementing OCDS, Open Contracting Data Standard, that also now makes interoperability a bit more easier in the long run. Brian, before you go, there's one last question on has sensitization been done to encourage those responsible to upload data, or what is being done so that they are on board from the beginning?
Okay, so from 2018 to date, the level of sensitization we have undertaken has been quite minimal, and this is mainly because we had issues with budgets, and just as we had already gotten our acts together last year, COVID came, and for the most part, we could not operate fully as PPRA. So I want to assure that for the next financial year, we have set aside quite a huge budget to roll out sensitization to all procuring entities, including those that are not registered. We want to believe that in the next 1 year, we'll have achieved maybe 70% coverage on sensitization on all PEs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for all those responses. And I think that's very clear. And we look forward to engaging you, of course, with the different counties in the interoperability challenges. So I think I'll hand it over to Harriet to complete her presentation.
Just to quickly conclude, is for me, what is most important and what came out very strongly is that we were able to build a story on how government responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. We were able to look at the accountability issues that came out, or even just build that narrative, albeit an incomplete one, with the data that was availed in whatever format it was availed in. And for me, this is at the heart of this open contracting conversation, is how that data, first, the availability of the data, that after so many months of demanding, we were able to get data, though in a format that's not really friendly, and in a structure, and the structure of the information, was still a bit problematic to work with, but we were able to build a story. And in terms of why, the danger of using the Auditor General, or not the danger, the one-sidedness of using the Auditor General's report is it just gives, it highlights things that went wrong, which is not bad and which is good for improving accountability and getting gaps. But at a time when Kenyans need a bit of hope that things went well, and county governments, government officials here would appreciate the value of that, then we need that information to show that indeed X% of the contracts that were awarded or the process was smooth. And we are not able to give that information because the data is incomplete. So even from the information that we got from the Auditor General's report, was highlighting challenges with the procurement process. I was highlighting challenges with the companies that were awarded the contracts, saying some of these companies don't have the expertise to provide medical products, health products and technologies. And they outlined some of these companies by KEMSA and even by county governments, because where we got data for county governments, and this is captured towards the last end of that report, is purely from the county, from the Auditor General's report. So we are not able to say that this is how counties did their procurement. We are only able to say this is the bad things, for lack of a better way to phrase that. This is the procurement malpractice that went on with COVID procurement between, and I think the Auditor General is between July to December. I can't quite recall that, but yes, so it's showing us that what the challenges were and not necessarily the good side of that story. So it's an incomplete story. And again, counties pledged to publish, to actually, and they use these words, they embrace open contracting and public, particularly for COVID procurement, and they haven't done that. You've seen Brian saying only KEMSA is publishing the contracts, and most of those are COVID contracts, by the way. What about the other counties? And the counties that are here that are embracing open contracting, Elgeyo, Marakwet, Makueni, this is a challenge to you. Publish that data for us so that we can complete that story. And we don't want to necessarily tell a bad story. We actually even would wish to showcase a success story to say, hey, look at County X. Oh, their procurement was awesome. You know, the percentage of this procurement was good, because that good story is as important as in this accountability space to show it can actually be done, and it can be done in a right manner. So I think, Charlene, in the interest of time, allow me to stop there, but would wish to engage further on the potential of where we can go with open contracting, particularly now. And I think some of these things will come out tomorrow in the session for I think COVID and open recovery in this wider open government discussion.
Great, thank you so much, Harriet. I see there's no hand up, so we can quickly jump into our next session. And to wrap up all our discussions, we have the last roundtable, and this focuses more on the CSOs and private sector roles. For this session, we have Hope Muli from HIVOS, who has extensive experience globally on implementation of open contracting projects. And we have Abubakar Said from URAIA, who will be speaking more from a grassroots perspective. And yeah, we could start with Hope. What do you think is the role of CSOs in holding the government accountable in supporting the improvement of service delivery? And are there some of the best practices that you could share with the team?
Greetings, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Hope Muli. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'll speak to the role, because we share this session with a national CSO, URAIA. I'll speak to the role of the international CSOs, or probably international NGOs. And then my colleague Abubakar from URAIA will speak to the national experiences. Overall, the role of international NGOs would be largely to complement the national or subnational efforts that are ongoing, and our complementary support and contributions, especially in any region we work in, I think would be said, or we would try to ensure that our support is contextualized, is agile and flexible, and also is focused on sustainability, ensuring that sustainability measures are undertaken to institutionalize the work. As Makueni has just mentioned, part of the sustainability that we have supported in Makueni has to be also to ensure that there's policy work that has been undertaken to entrench open contracting in their policy and in their legal framework. We are happy that they are on that journey, and hopefully the County Assembly will approve their policy and the law or the bill that they have, and then it will be law, and going forward, we can ensure even transitions that happen do not disrupt, but further take forward the work. It is good maybe as a benchmark to say, we hope that they would take it forward, but hopefully there will be improvements rather than setbacks or losses of gains. Some of the complementary support that we in the civil society sector, especially at the international civil society level, can undertake, and we would encourage others to undertake and to work together, is supporting innovations, pilots, and scaling up of international tools and standards that can drive interoperability across systems and comparability of data. There's been quite a conversation around that, so I'll not get into it. Sharing international global best practices with national actors. As you've heard, it's not necessarily most of the counties or government agencies, departments, and ministries are not open to undertake open contracting. Sometimes it's the lack of know-how, the lack of understanding, and sometimes it's the lack of sensitization. I think it's a challenge for us to work harder and to ensure we advance more sensitization, to ensure we have more stakeholders, and using these positive case studies as Makueni and Elgeyo, and now the willingness by PPRA to even go forward to upgrade their portal, to build more goodwill and to advance open data and open contracting data standards. Another area we could supplement or complement is the provision of technical expertise to governments, the building of capacities of national stakeholders, including intermediaries at the regional, national, and subnational levels, as well as mobilizing of resources to support the advancement of open data and open contracting data standards. We must commend the work that has been done by different NGOs in the open governance agenda here in Kenya, and the fact that out of the mobilization, we've seen more and more counties now joining OGP, and we are seeing more and more transition and more amicability towards the agenda itself. Hopefully, it turns into more and more tangible fruits that are entrenched and institutionalized in the different government agencies, departments, and entities that are procuring both at the national level and the subnational level. Another complementary support or effort that we could engage in is in co-convening global platforms for lesson learning and exchanges. A positive lesson that we have learned is Makueni's journey has been made lighter by engaging with others who are on the journey from different continents. They have been part of the OGP summits. They have engaged in different levels with different governments, listened to their stories. That also has given them a lot of experiences, lessons learned, and enhanced the political will for them to take up their journey. Same to Elgeyo Marakwet, who have been part of the OGP agenda for a very, very long time. And we commend them for their commitment too. We have seen a lot of engagements that can be undertaken, but I think a key one that we cannot leave behind in terms of how we can support is knowledge generation. Knowledge generation informed by practical research and dissemination of such knowledge has been very useful in the journey and the milestones. Capturing, documenting, storytelling has been useful. And we have seen a lot of case studies come out from practical researches that are able to be shared to the different actors in Kenya, and which they can learn from and which they can share also with their colleagues, because it's not only the procuring entity, the officials who we work with very closely, for example, Alex, Maritime, and Robert. It's also we have to ensure that we're engaging at the political level, the technical level, and also the other stakeholders, like the communities we are talking about in the project management committees. And I think URAIA will speak to that very substantively. And also service providers. I think with Makueni, a key element that DG can also attest to was ensuring the suppliers or the business entities are working in Makueni or interested in bids in Makueni were comfortable and understood and were sensitized and bought into their agenda. Now with the policy, we also agree, and we know that the county assembly members who are the legislators in the various houses, for example, in Elgeyo and in Makueni, would be key. I think we have to take up engagements in that area, support them. Any organization that is part of this engagement, part of this call or this discussion today, feel free. I think I would encourage all of us to support the journey wherever we can with whatever resources we have. I think because of my time, I would like to say thank you and maybe open up to questions if allowed by Charlene. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hope. I think because of time, let's just do URAIA first. Maybe they could have the session and then we could have the civil society discussions and questions together, all together. So I think I'll hand it over to Abu to speak more to knowing that you've worked with open contracting data in Makueni and used it to engage the county government. Maybe you could speak to your experience and how grassroots CSOs could also leverage on open contracting data to hold government accountable.
Thank you, Charlene, and good morning, everyone. So yeah, I'll be brief. I think Hope has talked a lot. So I'll just share a quick presentation, and yeah, don't worry about the subtitles. So yeah, so the question is, yeah, what is the role of grassroots CSOs in leveraging open contracting so that we have effective service delivery? So basically, what I'm going to share, I hope you can see my screen, is yeah, it's our experience in Makueni, and basically we had an initiative which was supported by HIVOS, and our thinking was, our aim was to build the capacity of project management committees, because Makueni has got project management committees who oversee the different projects, and what had happened was that from the open contracting, from the portal, we were able to see that 34 projects were delayed. So the question here was that then with this information, I mean, first, that's very rich information. The portal showed the projects which had been funded and which had not been implemented. So we said, as a national organization, is it possible for us to build the skills and knowledge of open contracting to give it to the grassroots people? So that was our approach. So what we did was that we identified a number of six projects which had not been completed. There are many, but because of time and resources, just picked 6. And what we did was we identified the PMCs, the committees which manage those projects, and we decided to build the capacity on open contracting. So the whole idea was, can that knowledge, we were asking ourselves, can that knowledge of OC help the PMCs to better do their work? And now for the training of the PMCs, we worked with citizens. And here we're talking about our civic educators. We did not work with a CSO per se, but we worked with a group of civic educators. As URAIA, we have civic educators across the country, an average of 6 civic educators. These are community resource people who are always available to support development initiatives at the local level. So these community members, so what we are saying is that we were thinking, if we empower them on the concept of the OC, and then we involve them fully, and then we also provide them with the support in forms of material, civic education on OC, and then we encourage and promote public participation. This is the thinking. We do this for the right holders, and then when it comes to the duty bearers, we work on this aspect. We cultivate a good working relationship, okay? And we ensure that they engage. And this is what actually we did. We engage them from the start of the project, okay? And then we make sure we provide the necessary information on what we're doing on the ground, just to ensure that we have a good working relationship. So using this model, we said that our philosophy will be, we keep all the stakeholders informed and we work with everybody. Okay, so this is the approach we used, and this is the approach, again, we are recommending people, CSOs, to adopt. They can tweak it, but we found it to be useful in ensuring that OC knowledge and that concept, if it's applied practically, it can help service delivery, it can improve on service delivery. So, and we also saw a number of success factors or formula, and again, these are the formulas which we now, in retrospect, I'm saying worked for us, but also this is what practically we did. Okay, so we build the capacity of the civic educators on OC and the PMCs. We also engaged, we supported the PMCs to engage the community with the OC information. And also, since we also did a sort of a study, it was possible to share that information with the community in terms of their projects and why they have not, why they are stuck, and the resources which had been allocated for those projects. Okay, and then also OC works best where we have this information. So you see, for Makueni and again for Elgeyo Market, if you have the portal with the information, it becomes easier. You can mine information and decide how to help the process. So, for example, for our case, the Makueni data had rich information in terms of all the projects in over, I think 2,000 villages, and it was easy to pick the ones which had not been completed. And then also, what happens is, if you have community structures that provide oversight, it becomes easier. So again, for Makueni, we have village committees, and then it becomes easier to work with them because village committees means that the project is situated at the village level, the community is aware. So if now you check what is in the portal and you go to the ground and you say, look, we're supposed to have, let's say, a clinic here, it has not happened, it has not worked out, what is the issue, are you aware, etc. So it becomes, you have support from also from the community in terms of their interest. And then something also very important is the willingness of the county government to be open and to ready for scrutiny and to receive feedback. So again, for Makueni, this was very good. So I don't think it would have been possible if the county government of Makueni was not willing to share information, because apart from us accessing information from the portal, the county government, we're working very closely with the director of devolution, who she was with us throughout the whole process. Even now, when it came to looking for the project managing committee members, it was sort of a directive from the county government. So again, the project committee members worked with us, but of course they also they knew that they had been also advised to work with us. So that was very good. Yeah. So these are some of the things which really made our work to be successful as far as we saw it. And then, so for our approach, we did a quick research, because when you look at the portal, we saw fine, there are some projects which have been listed as not having been completed, but it did not give the reason, the why. So what happened was went to the ground and we did a research. So we picked a sample of the 6 projects, and we were asked, the question was, why were they not completed? Fine, in the portal says they have not been completed, but now what is the reason? So of course, we interviewed the community members around the place, the project management committees who are supposed to manage the project. And of course, so we got some reasons. Either maybe you find that the contractor abandoned the project halfway, or maybe the project was done wrongly. Maybe in some places, the community members are not even maybe well involved, or the contractor, for example, in one area, I think they're building a sand dam. So even the timing of building that sand dam was wrong, when I think it was a rainy season, and I think the contractor maybe wanted to be paid. So when they didn't take into consideration that when it rains, it was in a dry season, so the contractor did not even listen to the community members, telling him that when it rains, the water levels maybe will rise to a certain level, and the dam, maybe some aspects should have been considered. So some of these, so those are some of the things which we found out. So we shared the findings with both the county government and the PMCs. And the good thing is that the findings, the county government was happy with the findings, with the report, and of course had questions on being asked. The people in charge of those projects, I think, were put to task. And I mean, it jumpstarts the project again. I think that's the major import of this whole thing. And of course, in some areas, resources were availed. And so the report brought things to the forefront that, yeah, the projects have stalled, but what was the reason? I mean, is it something which can be done? Is there something which can be done to ensure that this project can be restarted? So we were able to do that. And remember that we also trained the PMCs on OC so that they also appreciate more in terms of their role in oversight. Okay, so we got quite a number of successes, in terms of there was an area, there was a water pump project which had stalled, and I think that it was put back into place. Our water project initiative was restarted and completed. Okay, there are some solar systems which were installed in a dispensary. Okay, so in summary, what we're saying is that you build the capacity of CSOs on open contracting, you mainstream open contracting in regular programming work, you empower communities on open contracting issues, you ensure that you have a lot of sensitization forums, you simplify information on open contracting, use the media, and that's what we did. Use the media to talk about open contracting and the role of the citizens, and then you get you get the desired results. So we also developed quite a number of digital material which you can use on social media on just helping people understand open contracting, open government. And the whole idea was, again, to make sure that this information is accessible to as many citizens as possible. And yeah, because I think I had 6 minutes, let me not overshoot. But I'll stop there. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that it's really encouraging to see CSOs such as yourself doing work on the ground and to see some of the action points that come from working with open contracting. So I think before we take questions, to wrap up all our discussions and this final roundtable, we have the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry representative for Nairobi, Geoffrey Gadigi. And okay, we've spoken a lot about public sector and CSOs, but we could, and I think this is something that we rarely do, to have a perspective of private sector and the point of view of what would be the role of private sector in holding government accountable, supporting the improvement of service delivery, and in the use of open contracting. So over to you, Geoffrey.
Thank you very much, Charlene, for this opportunity. And indeed, thank you very much for all the sharing, especially the last, the sharing that has been done by the previous speakers. They've been very enlightening in terms of how we can hold the government accountable and how we can make, government institutions to respond to the members. As a chamber, Geoffrey Gadigi, Geoffrey Kimani is the chairman of Nairobi County Chamber, and we are a private sector business membership organization. And basically, the reason members come to us is because they are looking for support in terms of how well they can be enabled to do business, which we do through trying to create a better, working environment for them, trying to promote avenues through which they can do business, doing advocacy for them on issues that we find need to be straightened, and of course, helping them to network, bring about other business people to come and work with them. When we talk about open contracting, one thing that comes to mind is that the people we are talking about are business people whom we represent. And the business people, of course, have, when we are talking about corruption, there is usually a connection between business and the procuring entity. So that, when you say opportunities are not being given properly, when you hear that things are not working for other business people, of course, it is because there are inconsistencies and there are undercuttings that are being done so that the ground is not leveled for people to do good business, for all to prosper. Equal opportunities are not being given. And therefore, then the business is concerned. And that's where we come in. One of the things that maybe I would like to say is that corruption, as has been discussed, does not benefit anybody. It might benefit really very few people, but those people compared to the greater majority, everyone appreciates that it is needless that we should continue with corrupt systems, because if they were open, if they were transparent, if they were accountable, they do not only aid democratization, they also affect the way people are going to live. And again, when you look at the services that are being procured for, you find that it is very, corruption is a very negative force, because it tends to deprive the majority of the services and their rights, etc. And therefore, part of what we try to do as a private sector is to ensure that the ground is level for all to participate. And we really appreciate the initiatives that are being taken by Makueni and by Elgeyo Marakwet. And I think those are some of the issues that we should take up as advocacy issues right now, to ensure that the same can be done in other counties. Because once tenders are open, once people know how businesses are being awarded tenders and what tenders are available, even for business community, it becomes very easy for them to participate and to, justifiably be able to earn their keeping. So open contracting is a concept that has been shared with us, and we feel that it should be an advocacy agenda, because we want our members to benefit. But the challenge that has been is that there is not much information in the marketplace, so that people are not demanding for what they do not know. But once these discussions continue being made available to the general public, I think it will help to get people to agitate and to advocate for institutionalization of open contracting. And out of that, I think business will be possible to do in a manner that is competitive and in a manner that is devoid of a lot of obstacles which come out of the opaqueness in which some of the county government and the government itself operate. I think when we talk about democratization of institutions and the public participation also, I think it becomes then very important that members of the public are informed, about the possibilities that lay before them, so that that agitation can begin happening, and eventually we shall be able to make progress as far as some of those areas are concerned. And sometimes I was actually interested in knowing the scope of implementation of open government and documentation of the information that the two counties have participated in, because I thought especially about the procurement in terms of the stages through which procurement is done, evaluation. How much do the public get to know? They might know one or two things, but do they get to know about the evaluation criteria that was available? Do they get to know why a lot of why they are failing to get the tenders that they are failing to get? So some of that information, I think, by and by, as people continue to engage in open contracting, there will be more information that will be demanded by the contracting parties to be made available, so that when you lose in a tender, you know why you are losing, and you know why the other person is getting it. Then I was thinking about the AGPO provision in government tenders and other places, whereby in AGPO, where we are supposed to be provided with 30% to the disadvantaged parties. And in AGPO, when we talk about 30% to these people, look at the total expenditure on particular areas, a total budget of a county, for instance, and see whether what is being called 30% is actually 30% of the total expenditure, so that people can be able to benefit in the way that was envisaged by the makers of the Constitution, so that we may be able to promote some of those parties. And like I said, then when it comes to pre-qualification, sometimes people pre-qualify, but you do not know whether, you could be missing a document in the pre-qualification process. And when you miss a document, I think it should be pointed to you, so that you may be able to make amends and to make it available, because the objective of pre-qualification, again, is not to disqualify people ab initio. It should be to help people participate in the tendering process in an accountable manner. Because sometimes when you lose a document or when you miss a document, it should not necessarily be punitive. You should be given time to provide it, so that when you procure, it should be possible to do that. Then I thought about other dimensions of procurement. You see, for example, there are advertisements for positions. When positions are advertised, what are we talking about? Are we talking about, are those issues relative to the positions being advertised made available? Do evaluation criteria kick into place? So how much information is available? So basically, one of the things that we are proposing should be done is, get people into committees of the procuring entity, be they county government, etc., so that participation will become necessary, it will become possible. And I think with that, I want to stop there so that we can get feedback, etc. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. I think those are really good points. And I think you've just reminded us today that we need to have more private sector in some of this discussion, especially on some of the examples that you have given, such as evaluation criteria, ACO, and pre-qualification documents. Just to confirm, because of time, the portals in the 2 counties allow for the publishing of the evaluation minutes as they are in IFMIS. So that's something that private sector can easily get from the 2 county portals. So I think we'll just go right into the questions. I want to thank the other speakers, Hope and Abu. Those were really good. I think we've got a really good broad perspectives from a global perspective of best practices to an actual example of rollout in Makueni, and now to Geoffrey's points from the private sector. And I think that was a great way to wrap up. So to the questions, and this one I will let Hope take this because this has more of a broader perspective of how these projects are run. If you could explain how the different partners bodies work together, government authorities, PMCs, HIVOS, URAIA Trust, DP, private sector, who leads on planning, and also how is the running of the portal and also the training implementation all funded? What measures are there for sustaining the impact of the approach? Hope, over to you.
Thank you, Charlene, and thank you to the plenary for the questions. In terms of how we build successful partnerships around supporting and advancing open contracting and open data is, first of all, having clear roles and institutional mandates about how the work would be undertaken from the very beginning. So essentially, for example, in this particular one, and I will relate to Makueni as the single example so that it's much more clearer. HIVOS got into partnership with Makueni County, and the conversation started from a pitching and an engagement between the political leadership of Makueni and we, the project teams in HIVOS. And out of that engagement, the goodwill that Makueni expressed, then HIVOS agreed with Makueni we would build a partnership together, and this partnership would also include development gateway. And therefore, from that angle then, the work for HIVOS was to rally all the resources around the work. These resources included institutions such as Development Gateway, who would provide technical support in terms of the rollout. Institutions such as URAIA Trust, who are very well versed with community work and community sensitizations and trainings. And that's what Abu was explaining. And as part of our mandate also as HIVOS was also to build the capacity of URAIA Trust amongst other intermediaries that we have been building capacity on in terms of open contracting and being their fallback support in terms of content, resources, references, everything to do with open contracting. So it's to build a partnership where you look and you say, what does the county need? And then what do we put in place? What mechanisms, what institutions, and what competencies are required? So on the other hand, Makueni, who we commend so much for the high politics that they had from the very beginning. Remember, this is a new agenda, a new thematic area they have not been engaging in. They have low capacities and they come to the table and the conversation is, how do you help us do this and do it better? And how do you hold our hand and walk with us in this journey? So from that point of view, so Makueni, from their political leadership, the policy leadership in terms of their cabinet, and then the technical element or layer, which you would speak to in terms of the procurement entities themselves, the officers in the IT department, the officers in the finance department, planning, all those officers pulled together to make this a reality. So it's actually working with a whole county government in a journey, and it's not about 2 or 3 champions in a county. It's an institutional agenda. And I think the other question in terms of how we make the partnership more sustainable and resilient is in ensuring that policy-wise, the work is entrenched. And that's why Makueni, we supported an open contracting policy that is almost like a model policy that can also be replicated by other counties or adapted in ways that they feel useful. And a bill that has been drafted, and that partnership that meant also engaging experts, drafters to develop the policy in consultation with Makueni and the people of Makueni in terms of public participation, despite the COVID challenges we were having. And that has transpired then into the bill that they have and that they have put to the House. Hopefully it will be approved and enacted and signed by the governor. And then it can be a long-term living document in Makueni that ensures the work is entrenched. Sorry, I'm just putting it in a nutshell because of the time. I do know we need to wrap up, but generally those are our different roles. Have to ensure this is captured, and our framework was captured in an MOU. For those who are interested, there's an MOU between Development Gateway, HIVOS, and Makueni, just to give it some institutionalized framework around it.
Okay. Thank you, Hope, for that. I think that was elaborate enough, and I think that's very clear. And I think we'll move on to questions for Abubakar, then we'll move back to Geoffrey because there are a few questions for Geoffrey. Abubakar, is the general PMC training in all counties similar? Is there a manual? Have all counties formed PMCs for all projects? How many counties have devolved to the village administration and village council level?
Thanks, Charlene, and thanks, Jessica, for that comprehensive question. So, yeah, for the PMC training, we have a draft manual, which we use, like a training guide. And so that's standard. And we've not trained many counties, but if you're to train any county, that's what we'll use. And just for your information, what we do is we train our civic educators, and then it's the civic educators who train the PMCs. Because, for example, just for you to get an idea, in Makueni, there are quite a number of PMCs. So what happened was, once we trained our civic educators, we're working with 7 civic educators. So each civic educator went and trained the PMC in that particular village. So again, it made it to be very interactive, a small team, and people understand the issues. But we have a training guide which it's in a draft format, and we were working on a comprehensive manual with Makueni, with the director of devolution, but of course we got stuck because I think of resources. But we're working on something, and something else. Have all the counties formed the PMCs? No. Actually, I think Makueni, I don't know if there's, I need to get information if there's another county with this model. The model of having project management committees is a very good model, and we're trying to encourage other counties to follow. It makes not only the OC work easy, but many other developmental projects easy. And then how many counties have devolved to the village administrative level? I need to look at that, but I know it's still a struggle. The last time we were working devolution, I think we came across around 20 counties, but I can check our latest information. Thank you.
Thank you. So last questions, and this is to Geoffrey. From a private sector perspective, Harriet has given a call to action to get counties to publish, for your support as private sector, to get counties to publish the COVID-19 procurement data, to improve accountability in the procurement process and emphasize the importance of your role in that. But a question for you from Stephanie. While open contracting advocates for well-established business advantages like fairer allocation of contracts and an overall more competitive business environment, there's a section of business that enable the corruption and closed systems for their continued benefit. In your view, how can private sector play a stronger role in the advocacy for open contracting through their platforms such as a presidential roundtable with private sector and others? So how, think about the private sector and the platforms that you currently have, how can you advocate for open contracting through these platforms?
Thank you, Charlene. Now, the issues to do with helping open contracting are basically to do with the information available. And I think how we need to improve on that is through research, conducting research and surveys to give us, conclusive, to help shape our advocacy agenda. If we know the issues in the marketplace that are affecting the conduct of business, and they are verifiable, we have determined them, we are able to take them forward when it comes to presidential roundtable meetings where our top leaders participate. They would help to influence, say, executive orders with relation to some of those issues. And they would also help in terms of legislation, because when those agendas are brought forward, they would be attended to. But we also realize the need for capacity building, which we are actually doing, which is also shaped by the research findings, so that we know the area to concentrate on to better improve the environment for doing business. So capacity building is important. And we, of course, know how our country is. We know how access to information and internet is also placed. So again, one of the things is to encourage the counties also to develop, for example, internet hubs, so that this information, because it is internet-based, people should be able to access it, because information could be out there, but dissemination becomes a challenge. So those are some of the ways that I think would help to promote open contracting and to hold the institutions responsible accountable, so that there can be improvement in that front. Thank you.
I think thank you for the last panel for wrapping up all our thoughts throughout the whole process. I think we've got really great perspectives, and we're happy to have had the different perspectives all in one go and just have a few next steps and better understanding. So I think as we wrap up, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining the call today. I'd like to hand it over to our Open Government Partnership Committee member, Stephanie Mushai, who will be wrapping up everything for the call. But I just want to say thank you to everyone, and I hope this discussions can continue. I think the key things that came up was a need for more collaboration across the board, across broad stakeholders that we've had in this session. So I think over to Stephanie Mushai.
Afternoon, everybody, and thank you for all the great insights. It's really good to hear what is happening. As the ever proud of our local governments leading on the open contracting agenda, the public engagement and the accountability. So congratulations again. Thank you to the speakers who are implementing and giving their insights into what's happening. It's always good to have those very specific and granular insights. As Charlene said, I'm a member of the Global Steering Committee for the Open Government Partnership. So I just wanted to just wrap up by sharing an opportunity for the local governments and for the partners who are supporting them that's coming up. It is I've put it in the chat along with some details that you can look at later. The Open Government Partnership is running local innovation awards for all the OGP local members, and we have Elgeyo and Makueni on the call. The other three would also be eligible. I don't know how far they've gone with implementation, but the applications open on July 1st and close on September 17th. So please have a look together with partners who support these governments to be able to support them well. But generally, as an overview, there are two levels of awards that we would love to see our Kenyan local governments spotlighted in. So the first one is called the Spotlight Awards. And it's looking at your most innovative commitment in your OGP plan. And they will invite you as a local government to submit your most innovative commitment, and then it will be chosen through a competitive process by people. So it will be a People's Choice Award. And if you win the People's Choice Award based on the commitment in your plan, the winners of this award will have the opportunity to share their commitments at the Global Summit in South Korea, God willing. If people are able to travel, they will be funding support to travel there and to share the work that you're doing, to give presentations at the summit, and then they will, of course, promote your visibility as a local government as well for what you're doing. So that's the People's Award, called the Spotlight Award. The second part, I think Elgeyo had mentioned that there are some support gaps. This is an opportunity, and also Makueni, if there are still some support gaps, it's called the Accelerator Awards. So this is looking at maybe you have reached somewhere in your implementation and you're a bit stuck. You can apply for a modest amount of support to help one commitment to achieve more results. So if you have one commitment somewhere where you've reached somewhere and you need to get more support for that, whoever wins that would be eligible for support from the OGP support unit up to $10,000 US to support the implementation of those commitments. So I invite us as a way forward to just look through the criteria, what it is that counts as an innovative commitment and so forth. All the information is at that link. Charlene, I think, has everybody's contacts and can also share via email that information. So please, we really want to see our Kenya local governments spotlighted at these awards. If even just one of you can win, we'll be very happy and we'll support you. If more than one, of course, we'll be very happy. So partners, please get around it. Don't leave the local governments to it on their own. Please support them in their applications and how they can frame innovative commitments that can help our local governments to get the awards and also be profiled. So please keep up the good work. All the local governments, private sector, we are so happy that you're here. Contractors are a big part of this agenda. Business is a big part of the agenda. So please keep walking the journey with us. We are so thankful for your representation today. Development Gateway, thank you for a great job, and all the organization and all the CSO partners as well. So wishing a good day to all, and thank you, Charlene.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Steph. So as we said, thank you all for joining. We hope this conversation can continue offline. If you have any questions, you could always reach out to me, and I can connect you with anyone who was on the call. Also, I've just sent my email. And lastly, just say thank you and have a good afternoon.